Um, my name is Alex Lee. I'm the lead news writer here at GamesBeat, and it is my pleasure to introduce our two first speakers for this debate. Warren Spector, the co-founder and chief creative officer of Other Side Entertainment, and Jack Emmert, who is the recently minted CEO of Cryptic Studios. Give it up for Jack and Warren. And before we get started, can I get another round of applause for our wonderful host, Val, as well? Where are you, Val? By the way, I'm told that Val is currently looking for an organization, so if you're looking for someone who's an expert deal maker and innovator across gaming and advertising, she's your gal. I was not paid to say that. I really believe that. All right, so Warren and Jack. It's no secret that we're all here to discuss live service. Many of you guys work in live service games or are here for the kind of broader event that is covering the live service model. And this is a business model that has really upended gaming, and in a lot of ways for the better. It's unlocked new revenue streams for the industry, and it's allowed a lot of companies to gain investment and interest over the last few years. But as the nature of gaming as a medium evolves from a finite, fine-tuned experience to a more ongoing seasonal model, I think it's also created some questions about the impact of this business model on the creative ambitions and the creative strategies used by game makers. And so we have two very experienced game makers on stage now to discuss this core question. We're jumping right into the meat of it, which is, has the live service model created more opportunities for developers to evolve and expand their vision? Or has it narrowed the industry's creative ambitions in any ways? So we're going to kick it off with Warren.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. I have the unfortunate task of being the con person at this show. But first of all, let me just say, it's not for me to tell people what games to make or play. I enjoy doing that, and I will probably do a little bit of that. But, I'm not here to say live ops games suck. We'll just leave that there. So far, what I've done in my 43-year career is all single-player narrative-based games. They're about empowering players to tell their own stories in collaboration with me. I've got a half-day lecture on that, so I won't go into that here. But they're single-player, they're story-based. I consider video games and the games I make to be art as much as commerce. And the way I'm thinking about games now is a little different than I used to. And maybe this is getting a little bit into the live ops world, a tiny bit. I'm a big believer in premium games, obviously. That's what I've done. I've only worked in AAA games so far. But Premium Plus, where you can tell an ongoing story through major components, I think is really interesting. But the key, and I'm probably going to say this 10 or 12 times, things should end. I am a firm believer that things should end. And at some point, I'll go into more detail. I hope I have time to go into more detail about why that is and what that buys you. But even in a Premium Plus model, not that I'm working in that model now, the premium part is going to end, and each of the subsequent adventures is going to end, provide a satisfying sense of closure for players, which I think players deserve and require for real entertainment value. And I could go on, but I will stop there and let Jack eviscerate me.
Thanks, Warren. Jack, I know you have passionate feelings about this. So your thoughts on this overarching topic of the impact of live service on the creative goals and whether games should end or not?
Well, my thought about live service makes any game better. And here's why. Because the minute you launch, it's no longer your game. It's the community's. They let you know what's good. They let you know what's bad. You can look at the forums, social media. You can look at data. And then you can evolve the game into the direction that the players want, because they're giving you constant feedback. As opposed to, say, if I shell out 40 bucks, 50 bucks, 70 bucks for a game because the marketing's really slick, but then it ends up being buggy or crappy, and I don't play it barely at all. As opposed to a live game where maybe at first it isn't the game that I like, but man, it gets there. And there are many examples of very humble games like Subnautica, which grew into something that was beyond comprehension. And I can tell you, operating right now 3 MMOs, none of them bear any resemblance to the game I had at launch. Because of course, I was a great designer, right? I knew what was best for them, with the player. But you know what? The players, they tell you. And maybe I'm not, I'd like to think of my games as art too. It's just with this audience feedback component where it's constantly evolving, constantly changing to satisfy the players, their experience, their perception, their reception.
I got about 10 things I want to say. Okay, first of all, the idea, this is going to ensure I never get work again. I don't really think much about giving players what they want. I believe in giving them what I want and hoping there are enough of them to get someone to fund my next one. And that's worked out pretty well. I mean, I've done 17 full games and 8 more DLC packs. So maybe I've been lucky, but I'm just a believer in giving players something that you want to communicate with them, or you want to collaborate with them about. That's what I do. I collaborate with players in the telling of my overarching story, providing context and significance to the player experience, but leaving players to own the minute to minute. And that's where players get their power, not from telling me I want a sword that does 10 points more damage. So one more point and then I will shut up. I think if you look at some, if not all, of the more successful. Okay, so first of all, there are soap operas that run forever. There are what I call limited serial narratives like police procedurals or miniseries on Netflix. And there are films that are standalone, typically. They are standalone. And if you look at those, if you're not a grad student, the soap opera doesn't get a whole lot of attention, and not many people think of them as art because they are ongoing. And so there's that. I think ongoing, giving players what they want. They don't know what they want, okay? I mean, it's the Henry Ford thing. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. They just don't know. I mean, Steve Jobs used to say that all the time. People do not know what they want. And if you look at, I'm going to overstate to make my point. If you look at Steven Spielberg, he's not sitting there thinking, what does the audience want? He's thinking, what do I want to say? If you look at George R.R. Martin, who I know this for a fact, he's not sitting there thinking, what does my audience want? He's sitting there thinking, what do I want to tell them?
No, but look, HBO does. That's why they made changes to what his work was, right? Like, I mean, yeah, perhaps you were blessed in having a number of successes. But in my experience, man, like doing a one-off game has its ups and downs. Heck, doing an online game has its ups and downs. Every one of my MMOs, luckily, is still in operation, and that's a little aberrant, right? But I mean, if somebody actually thinks that a soap opera isn't art, that's gotta, like, I'm gobsmacked. I really have even no words.
I was a grad student. I know they are. I'm just making my point.
Right, like, but I guess the point being that just because something is ongoing doesn't mean that there aren't finite stories within it. It doesn't mean that there aren't a series of experiences. It's that you get to look forward to more. And perhaps I'll take a step back. I make video games not because I'm an artist, but because I want to share something that I love with other people. That's my core. Every one of my games is based off of one of my hobbies.
Amen, brother.
Right? And that's it. Like, I don't think I'm a particularly smart game developer. I am not philosophical at all. Any talk I would give would be incredibly boring and simplistic. but I do believe that just because something has a live service component and at least hasn't ended yet, doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be art or it can't include some of the features that you mentioned.
Okay, I know very little about live ops or MMOs, so I'm probably way out of my depth here. But one of the things that I hear talking to people in that area is that they think about how do we keep the audience here? How do we keep the audience? How do we, again, I may be overstating, you can correct me, but how do I not let players go to that other game? And the whole success model seems to me, of a live service or a live ops game is specifically to create a walled garden. Not a great experience, but a walled garden where you give players more and more of the same kind of experience, which denies them the opportunity to experience my game, which is different than his game, which is different from his game and the other people I can't point at.
But who are we to judge, right? Like, the players make the call. Like, we're not really part of that. The player can choose. If somebody wants to make a walled garden game, the players are choosing to stay in it. Like, it's not like they don't have agency in all of this. They're not children.
Well,
and
sometimes they are.
Okay. But even if they're children, they still have infinite choice of entertainment options. It's not like we're building a prison with our game systems.
Once they play, Minecraft, they're stuck in Minecraft forever.
That's because they like it.
But they're not experiencing Roblox, and they're not experiencing my game, and they're not experiencing. They're not experiencing.
Then what that means is that your game or my game isn't good enough to compete against Minecraft.
That's wrong.
That's the very definition of it.
No, sorry, that was obnoxious of me.
No, hey, look.
But
let it all fly.
What it means is Minecraft got there first. And owned the audience.
No, but nobody thinks like that. Just because.
Oh, I bet the Minecraft
just
folks
because
do.
Nobody's stuck with EverQuest because it's first. No, the vast majority of the audience played World of Warcraft because it was a better experience. Man, Ultima Online folks are in this audience, and EverQuest came and was bigger because it offered better and different stuff. Nobody's stuck with anything just because it's first.
Typically, as an outside observer, okay, not an expert, but Meridian 59 was alone, and Ultima Online was alone, and then EverQuest was alone, and then World of Warcraft was alone.
But they were all still operating simultaneously, each one building off the other, getting a larger audience, growing, because each of them changed in the way that their game systems and their content, and each one representing a step forward and innovating in a way that the previous hadn't. Now, this is MMOs, right? And I think your point on live service, perhaps, you're looking at more like mobile games, which perhaps maybe Candy Crush doesn't introduce brand new game systems. Nevertheless, my point would be, hey, people are enjoying it. Great, keep going, right? Like,
and you did make the point that Candy Crush is art as well, right?
I'm sorry?
And when you made the point when you were talking the other day that you do view Candy Crush as art, as a
course
valid expression of art.
To argue against myself, I could make that point. I mean, I went to grad school. I mean, I can show that anything is art.
Right. Well, do you want to whip out degrees? I mean, I feel like,
ABD.
Actually, I'm working on my dissertation right now.
Excellent.
This is an intellectual table. Guys, I'm really enjoying this discussion. We have a couple more minutes, and so to maybe bring it back to something that you were talking about at the top, and I think ask this kind of crucial question here. We're talking about whether things should. This is about monetization, I think, in a large part. And Warren, when we talked the other day, you raised the opinion that the live service model prioritizes ongoing monetization maybe too much or in a way that it kind of warps the nature of design itself. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah, I think at its worst, I think that's true. I don't think it's true based on the format or the genre is the wrong word, but I don't think it's inherent in the idea of live ops. I do think there are plenty of people exploiting it, and I'm going to start saying stuff I don't know anything about. You know, they worry about ARPA-poo and do-si-do and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
I mean, that's. I was going to curse. That's evil.
But that's the industry. Like when you go into EA, they're the same people on premium games crunching numbers on that, trying to figure out the optimum marketing spend, the optimum spend on public events. It's not unique to live service. It's just, unfortunately, that's the way the situation is. And if you want to whip out degrees and stuff, all right, let's talk about Euripides. It's not like he wasn't begging for money too for his tragedies. Money didn't fall from the sky. Like he needed patrons. He had to kiss butt. He had to do all of the things which occur in our industry every single day.
You don't have to do all of the things. You have options about the things you're willing to do to ensure you get to make another one. I mean, is anybody recording this? Is this being recorded?
Maybe.
Uh-oh. Screw it.
No, this isn't going public anywhere. Go crazy.
No, I have no filters. I mean, I've said that a couple of times.
No, hey, man, knock yourself out.
I used to tell publishers this. I'm no longer this stupid, but I tell them I make the games I want to make the way I want to make them, and if you don't want that, let's part ways now and stay friends.
So, okay, wait.
The,
Show of hands. How many of you feel like you could do that currently?
I've been doing that since I was 25 and a total failure.
Yeah,
but the other thing is, my obligation to you is to sell one more copy of a game than necessary to get someone to fund my next one. And that's the way I've lived my life. Now, I am the luckiest guy in the world. I recognize that. I mean, I know that. And it's terrible advice. No one should do any of that, okay? But you have agency as a developer, too. You get to decide how much you're willing to give up of your personal, creative freedom.
I don't think.
To make games.
I think that, but it's a reasonable expectation that there's a back and forth that happens with anyone that's giving you money because they're hiring you at the end of the day. And sure, are there lines you cross? Absolutely. If there were no lines, we'd all be doing something else way more profitable than we're doing now, right? But I think that just because somebody studies ARPA-poo doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. It's just part of the business aspect that we've got to make one more copy necessary to be able to make our next game.
And I think we're all in service of wanting to sell more games ultimately. So that much I think we certainly agree on. You guys,
Can I say one more thing?
I was going to say, so we're at the end of our time here, but I don't want to cut you off, so I want to do a lightning round. Final statements from both of you before we wrap this up.
Okay. I'm going to make your point for you. I used to think that live ops was actively evil by definition, okay? I no longer believe that. And here's why I don't believe it. One of my designers came to me, this was a couple of years ago, and said, Warren, it's just the Dungeons & Dragons model. And I just sort of went, yeah. And so the way I'm approaching that is not I play every Saturday with my game master and my friends, and it's just ongoing forever. I worked at TSR for a while, and they would, release a world book and then a supplement and adventure, each of them coming to a conclusion, coming to an end. And I think that's the way I'm going to approach ongoing gaming. But what I would beg is that we not sell people hats and capes and fur armor, okay? Could we just not do that?
Any final thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, I'm going to continue doing what I do. If players want hats, I'll make them for you. All right? Like, you want cloaks, I'll make them for you. If it enhances your experience in my virtual worlds, hell yeah, I'm all for it. Man, the games are nothing like what I designed, and I'm happy for it. The players made it into something great. I got out of the way, and I don't know. I just have a different perception on how those experiences should be.
Well, that's why we're up here duking it out.
Yeah, that is.
That was a debate. Jack, Warren, thank you. That was awesome. Round of applause, everybody.